So buying a home is a super exciting milestone and you're ready to go. And then suddenly you get smacked with all this overwhelming amount of information and how you actually have to prepare to buy. And at that point, you might actually start second guessing whether or not you want to buy or not. So with that, in today's video, we're gonna cover everything you need to know to get started so that you're well informed on how to approach the buying process. And once you know these steps, you can really just focus on whether or not the home that you're in is something you can imagine yourself living in. So step one is get pre-approved. Getting pre-approved is hands down the most important step to getting started. The vast majority, if not 100% of all sellers, will not accept your offer to purchase without a pre-approval letter. They don't technically have to have it to accept, but they're gonna view it as a massive risk and that the deal may fall through due to financing. So what this means before you really do anything else is get in touch with a loan officer or a mortgage company. So whether it be a standard bank that you do your banking with, or with a specific mortgage broker that's gonna help set you up with the right loan product. In this example, we're gonna pretend that you're talking to a loan officer. So what a loan officer is gonna have you do is you're gonna have to submit some financial information, job information, some background information, and they're gonna spit out a pre-qualification letter. Pre-qualification is not the same as pre-approval, but it will give you a ballpark number of home that you're gonna be qualified to buy. So if you're on a short timeline, then this would be the earliest that I would start searching for the homes, just so that you know that you have a ballpark range that's actually feasible. Now, a pre-qualification is given to you solely off the information that you provide the loan officer. So the next step is your loan officer is gonna take that information, run the credit check, run the background check, all the things that are on the lender side of the house, and then ultimately spit out what you're actually approved for. Now, the only caveat is that pre-approval letters could be a little finicky. So let's say you're gonna live in an area that has high HOA fees, that's gonna get added to the debt column and then adversely affect the amount of loan that you could actually take. This is all stuff you could talk to a loan officer with. But the main point here is get pre-approved, because without that, you can't even really submit an offer. Nobody's gonna accept it even if you do. And then ultimately you may end up just wasting your valuable time and energy looking at homes that you can't even afford. And once you actually have your pre-approval letter, you're ready to move on to step two. Now, this part of the home buying process is significantly more accessible due to applications like Zillow, Realtor.com, and all those other adjacent platforms. More or less, the standard workflow that I recommend for people is go onto Zillow and list out all of the homes that you see that are active that pique your curiosity. Once you have these listed, take some notes about them on the side. Give them all a rating 1 out of 10. And unless you're like super crushed for time, then pick only the ones that are 8 or higher. And even for the 8s, 9s, and 10s, sort of the way that I think about it is that a 10 is something that like you can't wait to submit an offer on it. You just have to see the home. A 9 is not quite there, but it's possibly there. Like maybe something in the pictures had you questioning something or the location, but still a strong contender nonetheless. And then 8s were ones that you really liked on Zillow, but you're not necessarily itching to buy. What this ends up doing inevitably is creating a game plan for you. It tells you which homes to look at in order. And let's say that one of the homes that you ranked 10 out of 10 has been on the market for a single day. Let's say it's in Cary and you know it's gonna go fast. Now you need to know that you need to be one of the first people to submit an offer to purchase. And in addition to that, you might have to offer a high due diligence and earnest money deposit in order to negotiate favor. But that's all more advanced stuff. At the basic level, just list them out, rank them 1 out of 10, and then only view the ones that are 8 or above. When you're at the home itself, what you're looking for are any red flags. So take, for example, like this home over here to the left, like you're gonna be looking at the condition of the roof. You're gonna be scanning the foundation for cracks. You're gonna be walking into the home and seeing if you could smell like a mold or mildew smell. You're gonna wanna see if the lawn retains water, if it has any flooding problems. It may seem very optimal to go see a home when it's bright and sunny out, but it's actually informative to go either when it's raining or shortly after raining so you can see how it drains. So these are all things that you can't tell just by looking at the pictures, but ultimately you're either gonna rule the home out or you're gonna go in there with a game plan knowing that there's things wrong with it. You could either request for them to get fixed or you just plan on the back end to fix it yourself. So my last tip for the home search is to create a filter. So going back to Zillow, and if you're working with a realtor, your realtor has access to this as well in the MLS, create a search criteria and you can literally click a polygon button and draw a boundary on the geographic area that you want to search. Now this isn't necessarily going to help you out immediately, right? Because you could just see the homes anyways, but what it will do is it'll set up alerts to let you know when a new home comes on market in that exact area that meets your criteria, or if a home goes under contract, or if it has a price reduction. And then second tip is use Google Maps, specifically drag and drop the little yellow avatar guy, drop him on the street and do a virtual tour real fast of the surrounding areas. The imagery is probably going to be out of date, especially depending on which part of Raleigh you're in. Let's say it's new construction. Maybe you'll see something that immediately rules out the area that you just weren't thinking of when you were just only looking at the photos, which by the way are only going to represent the hand-picked best look by the seller. So step 3 is actually to prepare and submit the offer to purchase. If you're working with a realtor, they'll do this for you. They'll talk to you about what terms you want and then reflect that into a offer, which becomes legally binding. If you're not working with an agent, then this is probably where you're going to be working with a sub-agent, which is a class in itself, or an attorney. Now, step 3 is the shortest of the steps because it's just writing the offer to purchase. But I didn't want to cover this intentionally as its own distinct step because what's most important to submitting the offer is to make sure that all of your ducks are actually in a row. So this is the last time to get your pre-approval letter. But at this point forward, don't change your credit situation. Like, don't go buy a car, don't go lease a vehicle, don't make a huge purchase. Because what that'll do is it'll end up invalidating your pre-approval letter, ultimately leading to you falling out of contract later. Additionally, the first 3 days after going under contract end up being the busiest for a buyer. So make sure you have the time in advance and manage your own expectations that you're gonna get bombarded with a bunch of emails from the lender, the real estate agent, insurance broker, so on and so forth. You're also gonna be expected to transfer the due diligence fee and the earnest money deposit, and the most common by far that I see is wire transfer. So before going under contract, call your bank and make sure everything's good to make a wire transfer. If you don't do that, you're gonna be jumping through hoops, try to find an alternate, which is really the last point is do have an alternate method like a check or something. Once everything's collected and submitted, it's pretty much a waiting game to see if the seller declines the offer, accepts the offer, or proposes a counter offer. And then this leads us to the final step, step 4, which is contract to close. So like I said, in contract to close, the busiest part is gonna be the first 3 days. During these first 3 days, you're pretty much gonna get bombarded with communication from everybody. And depending on whether or not you're working with a realtor, that could actually be lessened. But ultimately, this is when the loan officer is reaching out to you to progress the loan to the next step. It's when you're onboarding your closing attorney, you're coordinating insurance for when the home closes, and you're scheduling all of your inspections. Now, scheduling inspections, the agent could take care of, but a lot of inspectors are gonna require payment before they show up to the home. So you're still gonna have some degree of communication. Now, once you hunker down and you knock everything out for the first 1 to 3 days, this is when things sort of switch and become surprisingly boring, because at this point, it's basically just once everybody has their assigned task, wait until more information becomes available so that you could then make a decision on the way ahead. So your loan officer is gonna guide you through everything you need to do for that. They're gonna walk you through it. You don't need to really do anything. Same with the closing attorney, the insurance broker, real estate agent, pretty much all parties. But eventually your home inspection is gonna get back to you and it's gonna list everything possible that's wrong with the home. And if you've never bought a home before, this could be a bit overwhelming because it's kind of a lot. And so really your next step is to comb through the home inspection results and identify if anything needs follow-on specialized inspections, like let's say a more detailed HVAC inspection, or calling a structural engineer to assess the stability of a foundation, or doing things like a lead test. You could also request that the seller repair certain conditions identified during the home inspection. Now, they're under zero obligation to agree to fix anything, but for one, it doesn't hurt to ask. But two, especially if it's something that is very, very, very important to you, this is your opportunity to negotiate them fixing it so you could still go to closing. And so the result of either of these two options is they agree to fix the things, and after that, it's just monitoring to make sure the repairs are done and recorded, and or if you have follow-on specialized inspections, viewing the results of that, and then of course making decisions on how to move forward. After all these inspections are done, you're likely going to get your appraisal back, which is often ongoing from the due diligence period. And ultimately what this is just the lender sending a certified appraiser to say that your home is actually worth X amount. And this part is actually very important because when you get a loan product, how much the lender is going to cover, and then conversely how much down payment you owe, is going to be directly based on the value of the home. And so let's say you do a 20% down payment, that's your lender saying they will cover 80% loan to value, meaning 80% of the actual value of the home. So if it appraises low, that's called tidewater, which means you're going to owe more than 20% out of pocket to continue, or the seller's going to have to agree to lower the price. So the appraiser is often the most critical moment during contract to close period. But once that's done, you're cleared to close, then you head on the settlement date. And for settlement date, that's just simply going to your closing attorney and signing a plethora of paperwork, because buying homes is a legal process. And so a very important thing to note here is, let's say you're going to be out of state during closing, then the attorney needs to know whether or not you're doing a mail away closing, a notary signing, or if you're going to use a power of attorney, make sure you have all of this done and that the attorney is notified in advance. And at this point, if you sign in the morning, then usually it's either later that day or it's the next business day, your home closes and officially the deed is transferred and the home becomes yours. All right, so there you have it. Not the funnest topic to talk about, but if you're approaching the home buying process and you don't know anything about it, then it can be vastly intimidating. All of the information can become very overwhelming and you could quickly start to regret your decision. But really, once you get a couple reps of this and you really know what you're doing, you're gonna find the most important thing is just get pre-approved and just identify whether or not this home is something you could see yourself living in or not. Everything else is a process, but you're gonna be surrounded by people to walk you through that process. All right, so with that, that's everything for today. Hope this helps, and I'll see you next week. Thanks, bye.